This Pennywise Recaps, and today we're reviewing the comedy romance Mermaid in Paris. Get ready for incredible plot twists. Gaspar, a talented but not very well-known singer, lives in Paris. He works for his father, who owns a small restaurant on the water. One day, one of his customers has a wonderful evening at the restaurant. He goes out to the waterfront and suddenly hears singing coming from the river. As if mesmerized, the man walks to the water, enters the river, and with a happy smile goes to meet his death. Gaspar is sitting at the table when his father tells him that he received an offer to sell the restaurant this morning. Gaspar refuses, saying that the place is nothing but memories. Then he goes home. He travels exclusively on rollerblades. On his way back to his apartment building, he meets his neighbor. The woman is sincerely worried about her lonely neighbor. She gives him a chocolate egg and returns to her apartment. At home, Gaspar is greeted by a cat and a lot of toys. It seems that the man keeps everything related to his childhood. He takes out an old album and remembers his grandmother, and then goes to bed with the cat. The next morning, movers ring Gaspar's doorbell. They have brought the phonograph that was on the barge. Gaspar realizes that the fate of the restaurant is sealed and rushes to his father. The man explains that there was nothing he could do. Disappointed, Gaspar goes out to the waterfront and suddenly sees a mermaid on the shore. He approaches and makes sure that it is indeed a girl with a fishtail. She is unconscious. He puts his jacket on her and carries her outside. Gaspar tries to catch a taxi, but the driver refuses when he sees the strange girl. A couple in love, Doctors Milena and Victor, are talking on the hospital porch. They are making plans for the future. Milena is called to see a patient and she asks Victor to wait. Meanwhile, a man with a mermaid arrives at the hospital. Gaspar runs to the receptionist, but the employee demands the policy. After searching for it, the man pulls out an album from his bag. At this time, Victor sees the mermaid's tail peeking out. He approaches and tries to help the girl. Suddenly, she opens her eyes and starts singing. Victor listens with a blissful smile and then falls down. Gaspar realizes that help is not coming. He hears a dog barking and hurriedly leaves the hospital, leaving the album behind. The man chases the dog away and takes the mermaid to his place. Victor enters the hospital, but he feels sick. Milena sees him and asks what happened. The man only says that he saw a mermaid. Then he loses consciousness. Gaspar brings the mermaid home. He puts the mermaid in the bathtub, puts on a t-shirt, and turns on the water. The girl comes to and starts singing. She looks at Gaspar in surprise, but the singing does not affect him. Gaspar goes to the kitchen, and the mermaid explores the objects around her, bites off the head of a toy, and sings. At this time, the phone rings. Gaspar's father hears the singing, but Gaspar himself does not. He is treating his damaged tail. The mermaid says her name is Lula. The man is surprised that she is talking. Lula says that she is worse than humans, but she still talks. Gaspar brings food and gives her a fork. The girl doesn't understand what it is, but she starts to eat after him. Then she asks him to take her home. Gaspar says that she needs to wait until her tail heals. Lula warns him that he might die. Gaspar laughs and says that he is not that old yet. He goes to bed and Lula falls asleep in the bathroom. That night, Victor lies on the operating table. Milena is crying. A colleague tells her that Victor's blood has an elevated level of nitrogen, as happens when you dive deep in water. Lula confesses to Gaspar that men die when they hear her voice. Their hearts break for love. Gaspar laughs at this and says that his heart has been broken for a long time, and again refuses to send the mermaid into the river. Milena asks the receptionist if she has seen anything strange. The woman mentions a strange man in socks and gives her his album. In the morning, Gaspar gets ready for work. To keep Lula from being sad, he puts the TV in front of her and turns on cartoons about a mermaid. He asks the mermaid to be quiet so that one of the neighbors doesn't accidentally die. Then he notices that his album is gone. The boy is upset. Milena leaves the hospital and sees a strange blue puddle. She takes a sample. At this time, Gaspar arrives. He tries to find his album, but to no avail. Lula sits in the bathroom and watches the love stories told in the cartoons. She is touched. At this time, Rossi, a neighbor, takes the keys from under the mat and enters Gaspar's apartment. She doesn't seem surprised to see the mermaid. Rossi asks Lula who she is. Milena looks at the moving pictures in Gaspar's album. Rossi tells Lulu the story of the flower barge. It was opened by Gaspar's grandmother, Sylvia Snow, in the early 40s. She was an extraordinary woman with a clear and passionate heart. Then Rossi leaves, not realizing that she left her cigarettes by the bathroom. At the hospital, the lab technician tells Milena that the blood she brought for analysis belongs to a creature unknown to science that can only survive in the ocean. Lula, noticing the cigarettes, tries to smoke, but coughs and drops the cigarette on the mat. A fire starts. Rossi calls Gaspar, and he rushes home. The firefighters, having extinguished the apartment, hear Lula's voice. They are fascinated and behave strangely. Gaspar finds Lula and takes her to the bathroom. Rossi feels sick again. Lula says that they don't have much time, and she has to go to the sea. Gaspar agrees. He asks her what she would like at the end. Lula asks him to sing. A young man brings a guitar and they sing together. He suggests that she make a record because she has a stunning voice. They turn on the gramophone and sing a song. Gaspar almost kisses the girl, but at that moment the record falls out of the holder, and Gaspar feels sick again. Lula is upset. She realizes that he has fallen in love with her, but the man denies it. She asks, "What is love like?" He replies that love enchants and stings at the same time. At this time, a fireman dies in the hospital. Milena realizes that he also suffered because of the mermaid. She vows to find and destroy her. Gaspar suggests that they spend the last night on the barge. Rossi is actively involved in the preparations. And now Gaspar in a tailcoat and Lula in a long dress with hair and manicure are driving a small car through Paris. The girl admires the scenery, and the man periodically moistens her tail with water. Arriving at the barge, Gaspar brings a wheelchair and puts Lula in it. The friends are fascinated by the beauty. They don't seem to notice her tail. The father decides that she is an opera singer with a disability. They are seated at a table. The bartender brings cocktails, and the girl drains her glass with ease. Lula asks what a kiss is. Gaspar explains as best he can. He offers her to sing in this restaurant, but she reminds him that people die when she sings. Milena leaves for the flower barge. Meanwhile, Gaspar's father brings champagne, and Lula drinks the entire bottle. She says that sometimes, when she gets caught in fishermen's nets, she drinks their alcohol. Gaspar asks if anyone survived. She answers in the negative. Then she tells him about her dead mother, who protected her from a sailor, but he stabbed the mermaid in the heart. Gaspar says that he lost his mother too. Lulu says she is the last of the mermaids, and singing is her only defense. In total, she has killed 44 sailors. Gaspar says he had almost as many girlfriends. Lula is pleased that he is not affected by her spell. He says that this is the best confession of dislike he has ever heard. Turning on the gramophone, he takes the girl in his arms, and they dance, completely ignoring the people around them. Milena arrives at a restaurant and asks the bartender whose album this is. He points to Gaspar's. At this time, Gaspar takes Lula outside. He drives her through Paris at night, and when he stops, he takes out an unusual harmonica. Lula also tries to play it. Their eyes meet, and she says that he is the best dreamer she knows. Then he brings the girl to the oceanarium. She is delighted. Taking off her dress, the mermaid swims in a huge aquarium among the fish, and it is so beautiful that Gaspar dives in after her. But he gets sick in the water, and Lula brings him to the surface. They leave together again. Gaspar is having a hard time with their separation. Lula says that it is time to say goodbye, but the man asks her to stay with him. The mermaid does not agree, explaining that it is very dangerous. However, Gaspar assures her that he will take care of her, that he will take her to any ocean, and he is even ready to learn to dive to be with her anytime and anywhere. Lula shakes her head sadly. Gaspar brings her to his apartment, where he has prepared one last farewell surprise. In front of the girl's astonished eyes, the wall of his bathroom suddenly turns into a colorful set. The puzzles slide open, and behind them, an image of the sea is revealed. Gaspar is dancing among the moving figures. It's not a real coral reef, but with imagination, you can change the world. Lula asks Gaspar to get some real fish. When he leaves, the girl starts to cry, and real pearls fall from her eyes. Then, Lula calls Rossi and asks him to take her away from Gaspar's apartment. She realizes that he will never dare to let her go. The woman thanks the mermaid because Gaspar's dreamer spirit has returned, but Lula says she has to leave, otherwise Gaspar will die. Gaspar returns home to find his apartment empty. In the bathroom, Milena and the lab technician take water samples, but there is no sign of the mermaid. She has already been taken away. Suddenly, Gaspar falls down. Milena takes the mermaid's blood, and the lab technician says that her condition is terrible and she might die. But Milena is ruthless. She tells the mermaid that Gaspar is dying, like all her victims. Rossi, dressed in a medical gown, distracts Milena and then rushes to Gaspar. They go to the mermaid's room, pick her up, and Gaspar attaches the bathtub to the car and drives off. Milena tries to catch up with them, but Rossi says that Gaspar will release the mermaid into the Seine near the flower barge. Milena gives chase, but Gaspar is not going to the Seine. He has decided to take Lula to the sea. Milena gets a call that a car with a bathtub was seen on a country road. The woman turns around and follows. Gaspar is getting worse, but he still makes it to the seashore, takes the mermaid to the beach, and releases her into the water. He watches her until she disappears under the waves and Gaspar loses consciousness. Upon arriving on the shore, Milena performs CPR on him and Gaspar regains consciousness. In the final shots, Gaspar is driving his barge. On the shore, his father is holding a jar of pearls. The voice of a laboratory technician tells us that he has analyzed these pearls. They are clean, and some have inclusions of gold and diamonds. This is a real treasure, and it belongs to Gaspar because these tears were shed for him. The barge sails under the bridges of Paris. It seems that Gaspar is going on a long journey. Thank you for being with us. Subscribe to the channel like us, and be sure to click on the bell to stay up to date with our new videos.